Hi there, this is a video we're doing on 100N reactor. It was a dual-purpose reactor, made plutonium and electricity. It started in 1963. 1966, the power electrical part was added. 87, the plant was shut down. It has since been torn down and mothballed. We're just doing these to preserve the history of these plants. The problem, there's not a lot of pictures and information on these. This is before the digital age. We have a few aerial pictures of this, and that's it. We did one on spreader stoker boilers. We had no pictures, couldn't find anything on it. Luckily, I had a drawing that showed some of the boiler. We used that on the whiteboard. Whiteboards are nowhere near as good as pictures. So if anybody has pictures or information, or if you'd even like to do a video, contact us. We're just kind of doing this to preserve the history of these plants. So this is N reactor. It basically had a graphite moderated reactor. It was rated about 4,000 megawatts. I think you generate about 3,000 megawatts thermal. The water pressure was 1,550 psi. Some people round it about 1,600. From here, the water came out about 550 degrees, went through 12 steam generators. Water was returned back to the reactor with primary coolant recirc pumps. So this made one loop of the primary. There's a pressurizer set on this to maintain the system pressure. So this is one loop of ultra pure demin water. From here, steam was generated, went to the main steam header and was spread through various plant systems. Most of it went over to produce electricity, around about 130 psi, about 13 million pounds of steam an hour. It fed 2 steam turbine generators, put about 860 megawatts, had surface condensers. From there, the condensate was returned back. There were 16 condensate pumps that it fed. There was a surge tank that sat on the system, 3 of them. These had steam blanket on top to maintain net positive suction head for the pumps. If the level got too high, it dumped to the after heat removal tank. And the makeup went through the 184 deaerator. All this water had to be deaerated before it went back in. We don't have any valves on this because they just confuse the drawing too much. But from here, the water is returned back to the steam generator. So this was the secondary loop. If the pressure got too high in the main steam header, it's set for about 130. It went through the dump condensers. These were used for startup and shutdown also. They got raw water from the river. This plant called all the water coming in raw water because there's various treated water. There's 4 pumps. They rate 105,000 gallons a minute, about 3,500 horsepower synchronous motors, help balance the plant power factor. Usually they'd have 4 of these dump condensers warmed up and running in case of a reactor scram. So if the plant scrammed, they'd trip offline over there and the steam would go to the dump condensers. Like I say, for startup, you'd get rid of the excess steam, reactor scrams. Or if they had a big load rejection, you could dump the steam. It'd go down to the condensate header, back to the pump, and back to the steam generator. The reactor, we're saying it's a graphite moderated reactor. It's a block of graphite around 33 foot cube. It's actually 36 feet long. There's 1,003 Zircaloy 2 process tubes. They ran across the reactor. This is what the fuel sat in. I believe there's like 8 spacers on each end of the fuel assembly to hold it in the center of the reactor. Helium gas was used on the graphite block to prevent oxidation. There's graphite cooling. About 6,000 gallons a minute of water went through the graphite cooling. Went through the shield cooling and also control rod cooling. To control the reactor, there are 84 control rods, 39 from the left and 45 from the right. They're designed to go in 75% in 1.5 seconds. He had safety rods and he had control rods. But this is what controlled the reactor. Used high pressure oil, hydraulic system to fire them in. If you lost your control rods, there are 108 ball hoppers on top. They were designed to drop the balls down, boron carbide, which would kill the reaction. Down below, they'd retrieve the balls and send them back up to the hopper. So this was a secondary trip system. The rods were boron carbide also. Your pressurizer had electric heaters in it. This produced the pressure. Then they used cold sprays to knock the pressure down. So the heaters were always running because it took a while to heat up, so they'd run the heaters, a little bit of cold spray just to ensure that it could maintain the pressure. The primary coolant pumps, there's 6 of them. They're steam turbines with electric motor on the shaft. They're 9,100 horsepower steam turbines condensing. The condenser used steam jet air ejectors to pull a vacuum on it. There's also a hogger for starting up. Some plants use vacuum pumps. This plant used steam jet air ejectors. The motor, 400 horsepower, 850 RPM set on the steam turbine shaft. This was used for startup. The motor just free-wheeled with the steam turbine. Capable of pumping about 32,000 gallons a minute. These sat back with the steam generators. You had your high-pressure injection pumps. These provided water for the reactor. They're 2,000 horsepower motors. Had a fluid coupling. It had a scoop tube. It's kind of like a torque converter. Pull oil out and it'd slow down the pump or speed the pump up, pay amount of oil. There are 5 of these. You had to run 2 all the time. During reactor scram, 4 would start. They come off the demand water tank, and you'd feed seal water to the primary coolant pumps and also make up water to the primary loop. This water went through heat exchanger first, blow down line, heat up this water so you weren't injecting cold water back in. Demand water, it come out of a demineralizer plant using cation, anion resin. It was regenerated sulfuric acid and sodium hydroxide, capable of putting out about 2,500 gallons a minute, probably almost 3,000 if you really needed the water. Hold about 1,000,000 gallons. Filtered water tank, had Wheeler false bottom filters. They could put out 15,000 gallons a minute if need be. Usually it ran about, 2,000 to 3,000. It provided water for thermal shield cooling and bottom various things over here. Also make up to the demand plant. Inner building header, this was really important. The plant was set up to run all the basically A pumps ran off the outside power. The B pumps ran on house power. This went over to the powerhouse. There were 3 boilers, 2 combustion engineering boilers rated 200,000 pounds an hour, 1 Foster Wheeler rated 575,000 pounds an hour. There was also a steam turbine generator. It put out about 13 megawatts, hydrogen cooled. It was condensing. So this provided half of the plant power. If we lost all outside power, the steam generator, that steam turbine would power all the B pumps and you'd have a safe shutdown. The drive turbine header was also fed off of this, pressure reducing valves. Drive turbine header ran around 62, no more than 80 psi. That provided steam to the steam turbine. If the plant scrammed, it had what they called a thermal flywheel. There's enough residual heat in the plant to provide steam for about a half hour. The boilers were kept in hot standby, so you could ramp them up in a half hour and grab the steam load, keep your turbine generator running for the plant power. Your primary coolant pumps, steam turbine drive down to 1,100 RPM when the reactor scrammed to minimize excess cooling in the loop. Plant startup, the boilers were capable of driving these steam turbines to about 1,700 RPM. After that, you'd have to produce reactor steam to drive them up to the 3,600 RPM where they ran. Another thing in the powerhouse had the deaerator. All the return from the steam turbines and your turbine generator went back to the deaerator, and also all makeup water fed through the deaerator for your condensate header. Your after heat removal tank, this dumped water from your condensate header and provided water your after heat removal pumps, which fed the deaerator if the level got too low. You had normal makeup to it. If the plant totally lost power and there's no flow to the reactor, we had what we call the emergency core cooling would kick in. You had a dump line that went out. It went out to a tank first to get rid of the thermal heat. There's really hot water. Then after that, it went out to a crib. It was designed to absorb anything in the water. You had your high lift diesel pumps. These were 1600 horsepower GMC diesels. They were actually used on ships back in World War II. They're about 1943 vintage diesel. They could pump 13,000 gallons a minute. All three of them would run. They got their water from the Demin water tank first. I'd pump the water through the reactor and out. The figured had about 18 minutes of water in the Demin tank. Once this got low, you go to the filtered water tank if you could, get that valve opened. And if this tank got low, they had a thing called a silo, which was really an automatic valve that put raw water into this system. You had your low lift diesel pumps. They pumped out of the river. You had two pumping 33,000 gallons a minute and one at 20,000 a minute. Same engines. One was a 12-cylinder, everything else was 16 cylinders. The way the silo worked, you had an air bubble in the pipe here. As this level dropped, the air bubble would move up, the water would come up, and then it would vent the air bubble out, and then this would siphon raw water into the system. So the plant was designed that you could walk away from it and it would self-cool itself. This is really a pretty novel idea, and it never had to use it, luckily. If you ever did run raw water through this reactor, it's doubtful if you ever get it cleaned up enough to run. Another item they had was the fog spray diesel pumps. These took water really off the emergency raw water tank. The purpose of this was to provide water to these pumps while your low lift pump started. They had to pump water up the hill a little ways, so it took a little over a minute to get water up to here, to your fog spray pump header. So this was kind of an interim tank that would provide water while those caught up. Fog sprays were for the pipe gallery in case there was a pipe rupture. They'd also provide emergency water to the graphite cooling and shield cooling. During the reactor scram, all the diesel pumps would start, and you'd have 4 high pressure injection pumps running. Another novel thing, when the plant shut down, you'd get a refuel. They'd go on what's called water-to-water cooling. You'd flood a steam generator. There was a line that went over the dump condenser you'd open, so you'd basically have water here to water. So you'd just use water to cool down the reactor so you could do refueling. When you refueled this, you'd have to go in, take the ends off the process tubes, put it on a charge head adapter, and they put a tip off on the back end. You'd have a tube here with the spacers, the fuel, and more spacers on the end. The fuel was zirconium clad. There's actually a pipe inside of a pipe. They're about so long. Most of the enrichment was 0.95. Most of the reactor had a spike ring of 1.25 around the outside, and there's also some 0.71 U-235 fuel in here. Predominantly it was 0.95 U-235 fuel. So the fuel would be pushed in through the process tube, out the back, drop down to a thing called a trampoline, about 20 feet of water, then drop into little cars and go out to the fuel basin. And that's about it for this. We'll probably do some more videos on this. I guess we'll put them on YouTube. Like I say, we're just trying to documentate all we have. The plant's gone. There's nothing left of it. So a few years, nobody knows anything about this stuff. Anybody wants to be involved in this, please let us know. We can use pictures, old training manuals. And if anybody wants to actually come on and talk, that'd be great. This is just something that we're doing, trying to preserve history of stuff. Like I say, we did one on Erie City spreader stoker boilers, which were 1943 vintage. Before the digital age, there's no information on them. And we did a thing on water whistles, which you can't find anything on. So we're just trying to cover a bunch of different items that, just for the history's sake of it. Presentation isn't that great, but the knowledge isn't too bad. So we'll try and do an overhead view of the plant and point out some parts. Like I say, there's no pictures of this thing, so we just have to draw it out. And that's about it for this one. Thank you.